2025 was the year that the past finally caught up with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew. But even though he's been stripped of his titles, thrown out of his grace and favour mansion and publicly shamed, that may not be the end of disgrace for the late Queen's favourite son, with some calling for the government to take a much closer look at the ex-prince's finances. Last week, while the rest of the royal family met for their annual pre-Christmas lunch, Andrew, who lost the last of his titles just the day before, took a bleak solo horse ride in the rain while a photographer looked on. According to allies, Andrew now spends his days playing video games and watching TV, feeling abandoned and embittered. That's according to his biographer. One told The Telegraph this: "What's he going to do with the rest of his life? It's a very interesting question, and I don't think anyone has the answers yet." I mean, it's not that interesting. He'll probably just carry on doing what he did before, which is not very much. But at the beginning of the year, Andrew's allies seemed upbeat about his future again, according to The Telegraph. It's hard to imagine why, given the seriousness of the accusations around Andrew's links to paedophile billionaire sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. At the centre of the storm, of course, was this photograph, you'll have seen it many times before, taken in London in 2001, showing Andrew with his accuser, a 17-year-old Virginia Giuffre, while convicted sex trafficker and Epstein acolyte Ghislaine Maxwell grins in the background. Giuffre alleged that she had been trafficked to Andrew, saying the former prince sexually abused and raped her at least 3 times in 2001 while a teenager. In 2019, Andrew denied ever having met her in an excruciating BBC interview.
Oh, it's definitely me. I mean, that's a picture of me. It's not a picture of. I don't believe it's a picture of me in London, because when I go out in London, I wear a suit and a tie. I was at home. I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking. There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat. I admit fully that my judgment was probably coloured by my tendency to be too honourable.
Giuffre later filed a civil suit against Andrew in New York. In 2022, Andrew settled that case, paying Giuffre an alleged £12 million, partly funded by the late Queen, but making no apology or admission of wrongdoing. That was also the year that the Queen began stripping Andrew of some of his titles in an effort to distance the royal family from the growing scandal. Things went relatively quiet after that, with allies of Andrew reportedly believing he could make a comeback if he kept his head down. Of course, Andrew is not very good at keeping his head down. In December last year, revelations began to emerge about Andrew's links to an alleged Chinese spy. Earlier this year, it was revealed that Andrew had also met 3 times with Kai Chi, a senior member of the Chinese Communist Party alleged to have run a spy ring in the UK Parliament. And it turns out the former prince also fixed private visits to Buckingham Palace for the owners of a cryptocurrency firm, which has agreed to pay his former wife and housemate Sarah Ferguson up to £1.4 million to be their brand ambassador. That deal has led to questions over how Andrew and his former wife have funded their pretty lavish lifestyles, with even King Charles said to be unsure about where they get their money from. The only income that Andrew declares is his £20,000 per year pension from his 22 years employed part-time by the British Navy. Since 2010, when his access to public funds was cut off, Andrew is thought to have received £1 million a year from the Queen's personal wealth. Now, even harder questions are being asked by Andrew's biographer, Andrew Lowney, who appeared on US channel News Nation earlier this month.
So how much money does he have right now?
Well, no one knows. I mean, there's this opaqueness about royal finances. I mean, he has offshore accounts. He has, we know, a Chinese bank account. Stuff is paid through nominee accounts. His company accounts aren't audited. We don't even know all the sums that he's made over the years. We get little glimpses from court cases and whistleblowers. So we just don't know. I mean, there needs to be a proper audit of his finances. And I've been calling for years for something called a royal register. Our parliamentarians have to have a register of their business interests, and that would avoid them getting involved in deals that might be embarrassing, make sure that everything is above board.
Andrew's daughters, Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice, may also find themselves drawn into scrutiny.
they did ask Beatrice and Eugenie to open up their finances and just have someone to look at them, and they both rejected it, correct?
They did. I mean, the thing is, while they're princesses, they're earning large sums of money in the Middle East. We've seen Beatrice promoting a Saudi bank recently. We just don't know what's going on. I mean, again, one of the ways that they're paid is through jewelry, and they then fence that jewelry through various jewelers. And that's been going on for years. It's what Juan Carlos of Spain did. And of course, Juan Carlos of Spain was very close to Andrew. They were sort of working together, particularly in Kazakhstan.
That's interesting to me. So when Princess Beatrice and Eugenie go to the Middle East, for example, now they could both say they're there for their jobs. Eugenie, I believe, is in art, and Beatrice works for a bank. They could say, well, I'm there to talk art, I'm there to talk finances for my actual job. But when they go there, they're handed jewelry. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I mean, we know, for example, I mean, of a case of Beatrice receiving a £18,000 necklace, so about $25,000, from someone she didn't even know. And again, all these people are at, for example, Eugenie's wedding was filled with gangsters and dodgy dictators, as well as film stars she had never met. And that's how they operate. There's a sort of laundering of their reputations through charity, a way that they use charity to enhance their social position, and it's the same with their business. It's all interconnected.
Now, it's important to say that those are just Lowney's personal allegations, but they've certainly added to a sense of growing intrigue around the financial dealings of the former prince and his family. Central among them are questions around Andrew's housing arrangements, with Prime Minister Keir Starmer backing calls for an investigation into his accommodation at Windsor's Royal Lodge, and Lib Dem leader Ed Davey demanding a select committee inquiry. For the last 20 years, Andrew has lived in luxury, not far from Windsor Palace. This is the sprawling 30-room Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park that Andrew, along with his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, call home. It's also where he hosted some questionable guests. Pictured here at the lodge are convicted sexual predator and former film producer Harvey Weinstein, convicted now dead paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell as they attended celebrations for Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday in 2006. That photo was taken just 2 months after a US arrest warrant had been issued for Epstein for the sexual assault of a minor. But following Andrew's disgrace around his links to Jeffrey Epstein, as well as the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth, the new king, Andrew's brother, has been keen to move him on. Not least of all because of increasingly public confrontations like this one in October.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew's part? What do you think? Should the MPs be allowed to debate the lawyers in the House of Commons?
There were also further revelations that Andrew may have lied about the extent of his relationship with Epstein. This was SNP Westminster leader Stephen Flynn speaking in the Commons in October.
2019 Newsnight interview, Prince Andrew stated that he broke off ties with the notorious international paedophile Jeffrey Epstein after going to visit him for 4 days in New York. We've since learned through email chains that he in fact got in contact with Jeffrey Epstein subsequent to that and stated that he was looking forward to playing some more. Now, following those revelations and indeed further allegations in the public domain, I've laid a motion before this House which calls on the government to listen to parliamentarians, to listen to the public and to listen to victims and take legislative action to remove the dukedom from Prince Andrew.
It was at that point that politicians who generally avoid commenting on the royal family became increasingly vocal about their distaste for the former prince.
He shouldn't have been associated with a convicted paedophile, and I think the new revelations in this book, make for very sober reading. And I'm sure that everybody will reflect on that and form their own judgment.
He has behaved disgracefully. He's embarrassed the royal family time and again. He should really now leave public life forever, stop having any subsidy from the taxpayer whatsoever, and go and lead an entirely private life. The public are sick of Prince Andrew.
That was Robert Jenrick, maybe for the very first time getting the public mood exactly right. The stripping of all of Andrew's royal titles this year has also meant the falling away of any justification for Andrew to continue to live off the taxpayer, and a protracted battle to evict Andrew from the property has meant his finances have, for the first time, come close to public scrutiny. National Audit Office reports reveal that Andrew paid a peppercorn rent of as little as £1 per year to live in the mansion. He did, however, make some big upfront payments. This is from the BBC. A National Audit Office report shows that when he took on the lease in 2003, he agreed to pay more than £8 million, paying for repairs and effectively buying himself out of future rent obligations for the duration of the 75-year lease. There might now be questions about where Andrew got the funds in 2003 to effectively pay more than £8 million for a lease for life. Andrew is reportedly now trying to claw some of that money back after the early termination of the lease. But don't worry too much. He'll be getting a new free house on the royal family's private Sandringham estate in Norfolk, far from the public eye. This is Marsh Farm, a pretty big house that for some reason the press has described as a shoebox. It's being renovated for Andrew's arrival, and apparently he'll be living there rent-free. In the meantime, he's kicking his heels at Windsor Great Lodge, while servants reportedly pack his belongings, not least of all his collection of 72 teddy bears, which reportedly had to be lined up by a servant in size order every morning. Of course, that's a very different fate to that suffered by his accuser. In April this year, Virginia Giuffre took her own life at the age of 41, with relatives describing her as a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse, who died when the toll of abuse became unbearable. This was Giuffre talking about that fight to 60 Minutes Australia in 2019.
Do you think that Prince Andrew will ever be held accountable?
I'm going to try my damnedest. It's ridiculous that it's gone on this long. There's that much evidence that could have all of these people locked up for the rest of their lives. Why are they still walking around free right now? You know, I hope and I pray that the FBI and the international world as well can start standing behind us victims, us survivors. Give us a hand. Do something about it this time.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has always denied Giuffre's allegations.